What's up, everyone? Happy Thursday, 2 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm going to have my boy David Schwartz on. David is a really cool dude from upstate New York. He's an agent. Met him through the Tom Ferry network, and he is a badass at video. So if you're a new agent, experienced agent, or whatever kind of agent, and you want to get good at video, you got to watch this IG live. He's going to hop on in a second. This guy is killing the video game, and we're going to talk about that. Talk about his real estate market in upstate New York, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask us. Lynn, what's up? Good afternoon, Lynn. All right, let's bring on David Schwartz. Schwartz sells homes. Here we go. Ask. As we're chatting about whatever. Here we go. You should be on. What's up?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Oh, I like your hat, bro. Look at that.
Thanks, dude. I'm just tagging this in the elite group, letting everyone know on IG.
See? I knew that you were the right guy for this. Already tagging elite Facebook group. Smart. I gotta start doing that. I'm rarely on that Facebook group, man.
Yeah, it's a good way to get a little eyeballs. But yeah, dude, thank you for the introduction. Appreciate it, bro.
I like your black shirt and I like your black hat.
We have a nice uniform going, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Derek, like that is the Amazon goat himself. All you Amazon sellers out there, check out Derek DeMio. The guy knows his stuff.
Nice, man. So, dude, let's first talk about how we met. We met. Do we meet? What's the first time we met? Do we meet at the first time at Rob's event at the golf thing?
I think so, yeah. I know I've been a fan of yours for quite some time. I've seen you posted on Maze's story with your prospecting numbers, and as someone who also, I was like, wow, this guy's got it together.
Yeah.
I remember one day I
trying to
contacts or something in like 2 sessions. I don't know when that was, but I was like, I got to hit the follow button on this guy.
I love that, man. I love that.
And then, yeah, he has that Robert Max Top Flight or Top Golf event out there in Vegas. I remember that was really fun. Great camaraderie, a great communication. So when you asked me to go live, I was like, look, absolutely, bro, let's do this.
Let's do it. That's awesome. First off, let's tell everybody about who you are.
Sure. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm David Schwartz. I'm a realtor in upstate New York. Upstate New York meaning the Albany capital region of upstate New York. If New York's like a T, you got Long Island, Canada, Buffalo, Albany's right where it comes together. I serve all the surrounding areas. Been a realtor for just about 6 years now. Been in Tom Ferry coaching for almost 3 years now. Wow, time flies.
Smart. So you got into it right away.
You know, it was 3 years of me trying to run plays, not really having a blueprint. And I got to give a shout out to my previous broker, Mike Field. When I went over to start working with him, he got me to a sales edge. It was a Brooklyn Bridge. You know, it was with pipes. There I Curtis. And it just was like, wow, these guys got it. I couldn't believe how the energy was and how it just made sense. Prior to that, I went to a few Mike Ferry events with Coldwell Banker and understood the need to prospect. I understood the need for structure and a blueprint on how to grow and scale my business. I just didn't really connect with the Mike Ferry vibe.
Yeah, you know, me neither.
When I stumbled across Tom Ferry, I was like, oh, wow, this guy's got the same systems, but a little more warmth and energy, kind of similar to ourselves, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then from there, I just kind of got into it, man. And I haven't really looked back. It's been a blessing.
Dude, that's smart. That's 10 years sooner than me. Took me 13 years to get out to the Tom Ferry bandwagon, but I'm glad I did, man. You know, at some point, you know, it doesn't really matter when. Like I interviewed Allison Hunter, as you saw. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm there. Are you there?
Okay. Yeah. So she just joined Tom Ferry, and she's been in the business for, I think, like over 20 years, you know, she's killing it now. It's crazy how that switch of when you start coaching and how it changes your whole, like, just everything in your head. Like, you just have these bigger goals now because you're being coached and you have everybody else that is doing the same thing. So it's really, really motivating.
I think that was the biggest piece for me, right? It wasn't, and like, don't get me wrong, my coach is terrific. Paul Johnson, you're the man. I love you. Beyond that, I think it was seeing how many different ways there were to be successful.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
And how there's such a wide variety of personalities and a wide variety of markets and styles. But the fact that there are so many people that are successful in one place and that are so willing to share.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
someone that I reached out to saying, hey man, I admire what you're doing. Can you help me with this? I've never had someone say no.
I agree. Yeah.
Ever. Where else can you approach someone like that?
You can, and that's our business too, and that's what I think I was kind of lacking in real estate, at least here in Los Angeles. It's so competitive that you're not really like sharing ideas with other people here in LA. Like, you're like these are all your competitors. You're not gonna be telling them what you're doing. And then going to my first Tom Ferry event at the summit, I had already joined coaching, but that
Sure.
was my first event, and feeling that energy was insane. I was hooked. And I'm not this kind of guy that likes this kind of shit, like stuff. Like I'm like, that's not my thing. Like events of this nature are not my thing. But once I did the first one with Tom, I was hooked because he just like provides this warmth and like there's a whole community vibe of like, let's all help each other out. It's a big mastermind. That's all it is.
It's interesting that you say how intimidated you were by the experience and how cutthroat Los Angeles was.
Yeah.
For me, it was a little different. I moved back from South Florida where it was very similar to that. I lived in Delray Beach, and it was just as cutthroat. But I moved back here where everyone worked with the realtor that they've worked with for 30, 40 years. When I was getting into the business, I went on Facebook, and there were only 2 people my age that I knew at the time who were in real estate. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is the golden ticket. And then I started competing with people that like knew my parents' realtor, who they bought their house from 35 years ago, is still an animal in the town I grew up in.
Wow.
Right? Like that was so intimidating to me. Being in a place where you're kind of scared to share what's being successful because you don't want to give away the golden ticket, not realizing that by sharing how you're successful, most people aren't going to do it. First off,
that's the thing. Most people will not do it.
And secondly, like you can't work with everybody, right? Like people you vibe with, you're going to vibe with. People you don't, you don't. You can't be a master of everyone. It's never going to happen. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways I had from our ecosystem was like, wow, like I saw some of these people doing video. I'm like, these guys are ridiculous. Like I'm insecure how I look and I'm better looking than those guys. I'm not, I don't think I'm like a hot guy by any means. I'm seeing some of these guys out crushing it. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And then there's somehow some of these guys are doing their appointments. And I'm like, oh my God, if they can do it being like that, maybe I should try being me. Right. And by emulating and trying to R&D, use our ecosystem where everyone always says, see something I'm doing, just rip off and duplicate, like copy me, please. Tag me in it. I know it, like go for it. And like I had to do that at first, right? And then by doing that and seeing how it was successful and like just by trying to duplicate, and my coach would say, like, do one thing a month, just focus on. You find that by copying someone that's already successful, you're not trying to reinvent the wheel, right?
Yeah.
And like Robert Mack, like I'm glad you brought that up. I remember seeing him and Matt on Peloton.
What's up, Robert? He just got on here.
Oh, there he is.
Yes.
There he is. Yeah, man. I remember seeing him and Matt on the Peloton, TF Peloton. And that's really how I got kind of like really brought into a lot of the people I know is ironically from this damn bike. Hold on.
Good.
American Bulldog.
Oh, are you talking about during like COVID when they were doing that?
Oh yeah, and I just remember, I was like, wow, if all these guys can like laugh about it and be competitive, I can do this. And then I was like, let me see this guy's swag. And, oh wow, and like Matt Bear is like shockingly similar to me, but with a British accent, a little more life experience, right?
For sure.
Okay. And it's funny because you don't know how you're going to relate to people. But to that point, I would have met them if I wasn't in the ecosystem, just in the same group. And it's such an inclusive place, man. And I'm just so grateful to be a part of it. And it's
for sure. But you also put yourself out there. I mean, like you've also were the guy that was like, I'm going to do a video every single day. Like that was awesome. So tell me about like that whole journey, because I feel like that also kind of put you out there. I feel like every good video creator on the Tom Ferry like ecosystem is really popular because everybody sees their stuff and it's so smart. It's like that's a good case study of like why we should be doing video, because everybody's doing freaking video is like the person to hang out with because they know everybody else because everybody sees them.
Because I don't even think of myself like that. And to be honest, like I don't know like short of Elite Retreat when I got brought up on stage, I think the biggest thing doing as many videos as I have done is it lets people who don't know me get to see me, right? And they get to see me being me. And when someone's considering working with an agent, I'm almost interviewing myself on repeat as they scroll through my page, right? Like they're starting to get a feeling for the kind of goofiness I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to kind of circle back to your original question, I never thought that I would be this guy doing a video every single day. You know, when I first started doing videos, even if it was just a listing video, I would spend hours. Like we had a videographer and I would still go in shot app on my tablet and drive Matt Whalen on my video. What's up, Matt? I would drive him nuts because I'd like remove the music. Let me get the raw files so I can tweak it. Like I was such a and nobody cares.
Yeah.
And it all started because me and Matt Bear, we were just with the Brit Bear, we were just talking shit one day, right? Like we're like, oh, like, wouldn't it be great to be on stage? And Matt's, oh, we should do a video a day. I'm like, okay, for how long? He's like, a year. And I'm like, oh my God. Now
that's a commitment right there.
Well, me and Matt had already made a few side bets, right? Like who was going to lose weight before Summit, and like he smoked me. Like he got his shit together. Like he lost a bunch of weight. Now I remember I was talking with him, and I was like, damn, I do owe you a steak because you smoked me. Like good for you, man. It hired me to take a harder look at myself. I'm actually in health coaching with Rob's wife, and I have been since Summit as a result of that conversation.
Oh, but amazing.
Video thing
with Tanya.
All right, so you beat me on this. I am not going to let him beat me on video, right?
Nice.
So we're going to do a video a day, and the loser, you know, we just were like talking all this crap to each other, right?
Yeah.
And I remember he's like, we're going to start at Summit, and we're going to go for a year. And because of that, we might be able to get on stage. We might be able to get some recognition.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, like, let's do this. And I remember I was like so sick to my stomach. Like the 2 months leading up to it, I was like researching video ideas, making notes, like thinking of topics, like buying a teleprompter, buying 1,000 lights and cameras, and you know, like really trying to set myself up for success. And it's funny because the first 30 days, I really just tried to do what I thought was already popular, right? Like I followed a bunch of creators who I thought were really good, and I would just bookmark all of their videos, and I would just pretty much read their stuff word for word. And I'm glad I did that because it allowed me to figure out what my voice was. And I didn't really start to find my voice until like a month in. You know, then at about a month, I'd be like, okay, like that's not how I would say that. I don't feel comfortable saying it the same way as like Zach Faust or Phil Gertis. I didn't feel comfortable being the same person. So I'm like, let me just kind of put my own little spin on it, right?
Yeah.
But at that point, I was still really overthinking the captions, the hashtags, you know, because I'm following Pantana. And like, you know, you're looking at Jason, he's like, you got to do the hashtags, you got to do optimization.
It's a lot. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I'm like freaking myself out, just trying to do it like Katie did. Like every single creator in our, you know, ecosystem, I was trying to emulate, right? And then I'd say around day 60, I stopped caring. And I just started doing, you know, because I remember, and this is funny now that, you know, weed's legal in New York, I can just say it. I remember it was like my 10th. And I did this video and I was so proud of it. And then one of my friends was like, dude, there's a bong in the background. And this was like a week later. I was like,
I love that.
God, like, what do I do? Like, I can't take it down. And and when I realized that nobody noticed it, nobody, you know, people who knew what it was did. And that was really like an aha moment for me, because it's funny, I don't even smoke anymore, but it's funny because at the time I was so nervous about projecting who I thought my audience wanted me to be versus being who I am. Then I stopped, you know, making sure my hair was perfect. I started putting my hat on, started wearing a hoodie, and I would just go for it, you know, and to this day, I still kind of just do that. I think my process now, I think today's 198, you know, it's crazy, of consecutive days.
198. Wow.
198 days.
And so do you shoot ahead of time, or just every single day, like you have like a reminder to shoot that day?
It's just kind of like when I have something happen in my life, I shoot a video, and if it's really good, I'll save it. If it's not, I just save it to my drafts. And then
got it.
Funny, I don't really ever go back to those drafts until I'm like overthinking it, right? Because most days I'm like, oh wow, like Let me look at my bookmarks, right? Like, let me see what other people are doing that I emulate, right? Because if you follow the right people to inspire you, there's never a shortage of good ideas.
Agreed.
Right?
Exactly. There's never a shortage. Yeah.
So my process now has become, I'll see a video that I like, I'll listen to it twice, and then I just go for it. And then then I'll listen to it once. I usually am like, I'll save it to my camera roll just to be safe. And mind you, I shoot all stuff with IG reels. So then I'll redo it. 9 out of 10 times, the first one's better. Maybe I'll go for a third one, but it's never more than 3. If you try it too many times, you'll overthink it. Sloppy. I add captions by hitting mashing that button on the top and just plopping it. And then I just kind of write kind of a summary of what's going on. I say what video of 365, and then I use the same more or less 10 hashtags. Now, the way I was able to do that was, this is a good hack. Someone taught me that I was able to, shortcuts on an iPhone.
Yes.
Like period. Someone's like, you can do that for hashtags. I'm like, wait, what?
So
I have.
Oh yeah, I think you showed me that.
It pulls up 10 hashtags. Now I edit a few of them, right? Because not everything's for first-time home buyers. Not everything's for, how to sell your home. But generally speaking, it has the 10 same key hashtags: how to sell a home, how to buy a home, first-time home buyers, home seller tips, Schenectady, New York, Schenectady, Albany, Saratoga, Niskayuna, East Greenbush, boom. And I just kind of edit it a little bit and use the Schwartz homes, of course. And that's kind of been my process. And it's crazy because I still don't think of myself as anyone special. And it's weird because even when I was on stage at Elite and Tom was like, no, you do a really good job. And I'm like, do I? Like, maybe I get like 2,000 views on a video. Because I'm comparing myself to people like Dan O'Neill, who gets like 48,000, right? Or like 80 Day, who gets like 30,000, right?
Yeah.
And it was funny because if you ever want to see how powerful you are and you're ever talking crap to yourself, go on your insights and look at 30 days, how many impressions you have.
Oh, it's insane.
That is
insane.
That is probably one of the craziest things I picked up from this whole process for my self-esteem, right? And I'm not doing it to build up my ego. It's for my self-esteem because when you're looking at yourself in the camera, you're worst drunk monkey, and like you talk so much to yourself. Like I stuttered, I look stupid. I'm not, you're always like trying to judge,
analyzing
really hard. I think I judge myself harder than most. And like it's funny because I do my videos like we're doing this call, right? Like when you called me before, and I was like, no, like let's just do it. Like when you try to do something too much and you're not yourself, people pick up on that. And I'd say my big advice when people start talking to me, how do I get in a video? I go, just go for it. It's like anything. You remember the first time you cold called. Right?
Oh my gosh. God. I overthought that so bad. It was like 3 weeks of anxiety. I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta go on the call, and I did it. And I was like, okay, that wasn't too bad. And then it just got like, now I do it. It doesn't really bother me, but yeah, I mean, it was a lot of anxiety for sure. And then you look back and it's funny because I was teaching my nephew this exact same thing, right? It's like this fear of something inside of you. It's like this, it's a real feeling. Like you
hold on real quick, guys. That guy, Michael Field, who joined, he's the guy who got me into Tom Ferry. I got to give him deserves, man. I would not be here without him. So there he is. He's the one I was talking about. Michael Field Jr.
Love it.
Also got your coach, Jeff Mays. He's the man. So I just saw him pop on. I want to give him the respect he deserves.
So Michael coaches with Jeff. Are you there, David?
Yeah, I'm here.
Is Michael coaching with Jeff?
With Mays. Yep.
Okay, cool. Nice. Me too. I'll reach out to Michael. That's awesome, man.
He's great. He's the man. You got to meet him, dude. He's awesome. Cool. I would not be here without him. Yeah. He was my friend in high school, and he's the one who he pulled me out of Coldwell Banker. It was awesome. I was kicking myself, and I'm like, oh man, I'm not making any money. He's like, well, how many homes did you sell this year? It was like 13. It was something like, and that was like my best year, right? Mm-hmm. Like, dude, you can easily sell 40 a year. And I'm like, dude, you show me how to sell 40 homes in a year.
Yeah.
Changed my life. And I think that first year I sold 28, then it was 48, then last year was 54, and now I already have 30 pending and closed.
Dude, Amazing, man. Good
I
job.
wouldn't.
So what's your goal for this year?
100.
100 units.
100 units, man.
So that's a lot, by the way, and that's awesome, man. Do you have a
Well,
team?
I have
Do
to,
you
bro.
have
Like,
help?
what's your average sales price?
2.5 million.
Yeah, that'd be real. So for every 10 I sell, it's one of yours. So
Wow.
put that in perspective. I remember when I first,
Yeah.
my average sales price was 160,000.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now up to, I think, 337 is my
Okay.
average.
Mm-hmm.
But my average in my market is 280,000.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
so to make
that's good.
to have the goals I have, it has to be a volume-based business. And I get so jealous of people like you and Avi Becker and Big Rob Mack, who like, oh, I'm at 15 mil. I'm like, oh, you only sold
units?
7 homes.
Oh, just 7 homes.
I wish. No.
But listen, it's like you have to sell more units. We have to sell, less. But it's a different market. We have different challenges, right? So like you'll have certain challenges that I don't have, but I have certain challenges that obviously you don't have. You have your fitness coach here, Tanya Mack.
There she is. Best.
I love that.
Follow her. Change your life.
So what's the market like in Albany? Like you told us about average sales price. I mean, is it the same hot market like it is everywhere else? Is it cooling down now that rates have gone up so much?
So here's something that's really interesting. When I lived in South Florida, I was really in a market similar to yours, right? So when I moved back here in 2016, I was like, oh my God, rents for 2-bedroom apartments were like $800. I bought a 4-bedroom house, like a Class A school district, for $170,000, and I was like,
wow,
this is unbelievable. Like, I can't believe how much more affordable this area is. As COVID hit, New York City is only 2.5 hours away, and we have a lot of culture here. It's called the Tri-City area. So we have Albany, Schenectady, Troy, and then there's Saratoga north of us. We're 2.5 hours from Boston. We're 2.5 or 3 hours from Montreal, 2.5 hours from New York City. So we're in a really interesting location. We have a big airport, a lot of outdoor music venues. There's the Adirondack Mountains for climbing, hiking, skiing, camping.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of them.
All really close to us. So it's a really cool place to live. We have, I think, 15 colleges in the Albany area. So there's a lot of like growth, a lot of state jobs, stable employment. So finally, they're starting to track where they should have been, I think, this whole time. Because there aren't many places where you can live a proud life making $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
Here you live well. It's not even like you're living, like if I made $50,000 in Boca in Del Rey, I was living in debt, right?
Yeah.
Whereas here, you can live proud. You can live in a good neighborhood. You can drive a nice car. You can go out to a nice dinner. You can go do things with your family. And that, to me, was like, wow, like this is kind of like a little secret. Well, COVID hit New York City, and a lot of people from here go to New York City. A lot of people go to Boston, Philly, and all over the place. And a lot of me, myself included, just before COVID, we all moved back. We're like, oh, wow, like our dollar goes so much further here, especially with remote working capabilities. I have a lot of friends who still have jobs based out of Manhattan, but maybe they go down once a week.
And they have a house. They have
they
nice
get a
lifestyle.
Hotel, because a hotel room for $400 is a lot more in for the same. Let's say they're paying $3,500 for a multiple bedroom apartment because they have kids, right? Or they have a really big apartment or a big condo, let's say, and they're paying an astronomical amount of money. For $600,000 here, you can live in a castle. So it's just a very different setting, right? So for someone like that, they just drive down once a week. They or they go on the train. They get a hotel room, say at some nice hotel for $700. They go back to their very affordable house that has a lot of the quality of life is much better.
Yeah.
But kind of getting back to your question, what we're seeing here is as the rates have upticked, we don't have a lot of fringe buyers. So I think in other markets, there were a lot of people who, like your entry level is so much higher that there were probably a lot more people kind of on the fringe, kind of like, because the barrier to entry is so high. Here, the sub 300 market is aggressive, to say the least. You're getting that 15 offers, you're getting that same competition. Then when you go into the new construction, very similar. newer built houses, stuff that's been remodeled, stuff that's in good condition, that's been well maintained and updated, those are getting the same results. Where we are seeing a little bit of softening are on houses that need a lot of work.
Yeah.
More the larger houses. Because as the rents have ticked up here, and as the cost of buying a house has ticked up here, a lot of the older, high quality workers have retired, right? A lot of them were in like the silent generation or the baby boomers, and they've just said this. And also the cost of goods and supply chain has made it really, really expensive to get construction done. So you're seeing kind of a little bit of softening on some of those houses that need a lot. And I'm talking the 3-bath, 5-bed, larger houses.
Gotcha.
Looking at a starter home, like the standard 3-bed, 2-bath, those are still getting flipped left and right. People are paying, let's say, even 70% of resale value, putting in the 10% or 15%, knowing the market's going to add 10 on top and still flipping it and making a living. So that's not really soft. What is interesting though is because we're in kind of similar to you guys, we're an established community, right? There isn't a lot of areas to build. If you build, you have to go to more rural communities. And yes, there's there, but you're not seeing huge, large scale developments going in. You're not seeing like the 1,000 homes that we're seeing in like Georgia or, in North Florida. Like that just doesn't exist here. So that's interesting because when I talk to other agents, I'm sure you have in other parts, like the new construction is booming because they have thousands and thousands of homes being built. I just don't see that here because our municipalities can't handle it. Even if we could build it, like our school districts have been around, like we don't get new schools and new sewage plants and like that, our infrastructure could not handle an influx that much. And people always talk. Go ahead.
Are you seeing houses being torn down? Like, so over here, like Albany, there's no land. So you don't ever see like a big, Lennar, KB or, the big developers, having, 100 homes or 200 home tracks. That doesn't exist here. So what we're seeing is a lot of these older houses built in the 40s, 50s, 60s being scraped. And then you're seeing these luxury developments that are worth, $4, $5, $6, $10, $20 million, right? Is that happening over there or no?
So not in as large of a scale. I will say we are seeing it on our lakes. So we have a few lakes in the Capital District. We have Saratoga Lake, Lake George, and Lake Sacandaga. Those are the 3 big ones. I think there's another like 7 or 8 smaller ones, but the ones that are large enough to have full power boats, jet skis, the very sought after ones, there's again, Saratoga, Lake George, and Sacandaga. And because that only has a limited amount of real estate, we've seen that really start to happen where you get some of these like seasonal camps, right? That even 5 years ago, you could pick up for $150,000, $200,000, $300,000. Now those teardowns are going for $350,000, $400,000. Someone goes in, smokes it, puts in a $1.2 million house, then they Airbnb it out for their nut and some, and they're so cost prohibitive. Like they get all their money back during the summer, or they rent it on off season for most of their nuts so they can enjoy it. But in terms of like residential and big neighborhoods, we're not really seeing that yet. I do see that as something going to happen soon in a few of the Class A school districts where you do have some of these like smaller bungalow style homes on, let's say, a 3/4 acre lot that could be right for that like $4,000, new construction home. Yeah. And I don't see the builders starting to build starter homes until the government starts giving some sort of incentive for them to do it. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah. What's the luxury market look like in your area? Like what's the price point, and like is there a big luxury market there?
So again, I'll kind of go back to that. When we start talking luxury, I think we're talking, a lot of the Saratoga racetrack in that area so Saratoga has the oldest race course in the United States. So they have one of the crowns there called the Travis Cup. And that brings in all sorts of horse fanatics from all over the world every August. It's a very sought after area. In terms of luxury for our area, we kind of consider that over 650, and that market's booming because you have people from New York City who go from a studio for 700 to a 6-bedroom 5-bath house with a 4-car garage and 2 kitchens and a movie theater. And they're like, it's like Monopoly money. It's just a different mindset, right?
Yeah.
I had a friend who moved to Denver. He's from here. He moved to Denver. He bought a house there, a pretty nice one. What was it, 5 years ago? I called him and said, hey, look, man, there's this loan out called a 10% down second home loan. And they'll do up to 620, I think, loan to value. Like, so you're not getting to the jumbo. You're able to stay below it.
Yeah.
And he jumped. He was like, God, like, yes, let's do it. Because from his mindset, he was like, dude, like if I can get a summer house or something that I can rent out for the summer, eventually I want to raise my kids there, because our school districts and our culture here is very good. And it's hard to not want to raise your kids here when you grew up here yourself.
Sure.
The property markets in Denver went, whew. He walked away after selling his house with a $600,000 gain.
Wow.
Because he looked at me, he locked up a 2.8% interest rate on a house that has now appreciated to, 800.
Wow.
He's happy. And he's the happiest person ever. Now we're going to look for multifamilies, which in this area is booming. That is probably one of the hottest parts of our market is multifamily, because there are a lot of multi-generational owners who have not gotten their rents in line. So it's very competitive with value adds.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
it's huge. Yeah.
Oh,
So you go in there, you buy it, you redo the units, and then you raise rents.
Dude, the craziest part is most of these multi-generational owners, sorry about that. Most of these owners were skilled craftsmen and tradesmen. So the quality and condition, albeit dated, are very, very good. Like updated, very nice mechanicals, very nice common areas, good roof, good exterior, good curb appeal. Just the kitchens are old, but they're mint. You look at some of these, and because deco is kind of in, what I'm seeing is you get some of these savvier landlords will come in. Yes, there are some that need to be gutted and dump a bunch of money into. There's a lot you don't. There's a lot where
just go in there and just raise rents.
Granite, put in a flashier backsplash. You paint the cabinets, like you lipstick it, but you're lipsticking premium quality products. Like you're not going to rip out a steel tub from the 1950s. You'll get it resurfaced for $700. Maybe you get all like the avocado tiles, resurfaced for white, and you get the whole bathroom done for $2,000. It's done in a day. But also when you see, like, for example, one of my clients right now, he's buying an 11 unit, right? This 11 unit was $950,000. The average rent, 1 bedrooms are being rented for $600. 2-bedroom apartments are being rented between $700 and $800. And then 3-bedroom apartments are being rented between $750 and $850. So just by taking his rents and getting them in line with where they should be, he'll turn a 6 cap to an 11 cap without adding a dollar.
Wow. Yeah. See,
and that's
over
very
here.
common.
Yeah, and over here the average cap is 4%. It's 4%. It's really, 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 really low. But what we get here is the appreciation. We get massive appreciation here. What is the appreciation over there like for those kinds of properties? Is it?
That's,
obviously,
first got into this business.
Right now it's good, but.
Yeah, when I first got into this business, I was primarily in the multifamily market because a lot of these older landlords were using discount brokers that weren't really doing a good job servicing them. Craziness. How do you figure out the cap rate? Let me tell you, Lynn, I don't. I let my landlords figure it out. I don't do it. I say, if you need someone to talk to, here's a guy I recommend. Here's an accountant. Here's someone. Because I found that every kind of landlord has a different idea of how to calculate their own cap, own thresholds. And generally speaking, it's very difficult for me, at least, and this is just my personal opinion. I really try to shy away from helping people who've never been a landlord get into the bigger multifamily units. I'll help them find a duplex, no problem. But once you start talking about a 4-unit or more, I really keep those for people who know their numbers, know their costs, because it's hard to, like, there is no one property manager that can match every investor, right? Because every investor has their own degrees of management they want on their properties. And just like every investor has their own different numbers they'll put in for vacancy rate. They'll put in their different numbers for management, for maintenance. Like different people do it very differently. And when I tried to help people understand that, I ended up putting myself in some pretty tricky situations. You know, if you get someone to understand or to expect, for example, that, hey, it's only going to cost me $2,000 a year in maintenance, and then the roof goes, like, you know, like then something happens, you are the bad guy. Whereas if you're just like, hey, look, what's up, Romer? Like, hey, talk to this guy, Ben Romer. He worked for Redbird Management. He specialized in multifamilies for one of the biggest developers in the area. Go talk to my friend Ben Romer. He'll help you with that. No problem.
Right? I love that, how you're like talking about something and then that one person logs on to IG Live.
Oh, Ben's my man. Like, I recruited him from Redbird. I pulled him out to Field Realty. So I was like, dude, like, we need people like you in real estate, because most people don't have that really strong commercial property management background. Because when they do, they go into business for themselves. They're not necessarily talking to customers every day. They're not talking to people like you and I. They're talking to blue chip, established, accredited investors. They're not talking to people like me and you, or maybe a crypto millionaire, or maybe your friend whose dad passed away and they got a life insurance policy and they don't want to give it to a stockbroker. They want to start making passive income in their community. You never know.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know anything about commercial. It scares the crap out of me. It's like I'm speaking Greek. I can help do multifamilies, but if not, go to my friend Ben Romer, Ben Girl, you got this. And it's like, it's interesting. So that's what I was saying. When I got started, the 2-family, the 3-family, these landlords who had, let's say, 16 2-families, right? Like, they bought them when they were $30,000. Yeah. Now they at the time worth 100, and they're all like, oh, we're going to get out. Like, let's get out of here. And I was able, because those are the clients you want to look for. But I was looking at so many of them every single day, especially in the city of Schenectady, that, I mean, I think I viewed 100 in 1 year. So I was really able to give them a realistic expectation on price, condition, and quality. I think I sold, of my first 28 deals that year when I started to get traction, I think 15 were 2-families or 3-families. Okay, so a lot of your business comes from multi-unit. Absolutely. Now it's not the same mix. Now it's a lot more residential, and then I have 3 or 4 investors I go really deep with, you know, because they show me, like, those are fun for me to look for. And I prospect. In New York State, you can't cold call people. It sucks. We're in what's called the state of emergency, so I can't just go through and cold call the owners. Still, you're so still with that stupid rule. Still there, man. So it's forced us to be creative, and it's actually really good for me, man, because what I do, I call buyer's agents from a few years ago, and I say, hey, look, you represented all these buyers. Which one of them want to trade up? Who do you know thinking about something family? I don't want to cold call your people. Smart. I want to give you the chance to call your people. If they're willing to do it, will you give me a chance? And they're like, oh my God, Dave, like, thank you for not being a piece of crap. Like, I'll happily call them. And guess what? They've had such massive appreciations. Now they're eyeing 20 units. They're eyeing 48, you know, and they want to trade up. And I'm there to kind of build those relationships. And, you know, I've been able to put together some really phenomenal deals as a result from cold calling agents in the multifamily marketplace. That's really smart. It's like, but that just shows that you're like an entrepreneur, right? You're not going to just say, oh, you know, feel sorry for yourself. You know, the rules change. I can't cold call, and then you stop. You're like, I got to find a way, and you found a way, right? Like, you found a way around that. It's like, yes, you know, could you have gotten more listings? But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're able to connect people. You're able to you know, kind of work things, and obviously you're able to find stuff for your buyers, which leads to listings, which leads to people saying, hey, this guy, he's got something, you know. And I can't even tell you. So when COVID hit, and like we couldn't cold call, it was like, what am I going to do about my business? Like, shit. Oh my God. Like, I hated calling for sale. I hated calling expireds, because for me, like, I didn't feel like I had enough experience to really give them the value before COVID to do it. And most of my experience in terms of volume and units since 2020. So I can't wait to go after them again. But what I was doing before 2020 was circle dialing. or calling properties that fit the criteria of my buyers, kind of like the circle dial script today. I was doing that before COVID. So then when it hit, I couldn't do that anymore. Right? I was like, oh my God. But I still had that prospecting muscle, because by making my contacts every day, I went from being someone who was allowing any buyer who had a pulse or any seller who gave me the time of day to abuse me, to take advantage of how nice I am, to run me around in circles, who would call me at 9 o'clock at night, or, you know what I mean? Like, I had no control over my life. And once I started picking up the phone, I remember I went to the Sales Edge in February, and April 30th on my birthday of that year, I was sitting in Mike Field's office crying. I was like, dude, because Mike had me start cold calling in January, and I was calling 30 people a day, like boom, boom, checking, making my notes just like your sheet, checking the circles. I wasn't getting any calls. So he's like, you need to go to Sales Edge. You need to go to Sales Edge. So I was like, all right. So I went, and I was like, holy shit. Like, these scripts are fire. Like, oh my God. And then from like the end of February, March, April, I was using the scripts. I was role playing. I was getting no results. I remember I was crying on my birthday. I'm like, Mike, I said if I didn't make it by June this year, I was going to have to start looking for another job. And like, I know this is going to be a business, but I'm really scared because I'm not having success. And he said, just trust the process. And I was like, well, that May I pended 5 years. That May,
trust the process.
I say, like, I had to give him a shout out, man, because that May I pended 5, that June I pended 9. And it was just like,
I just went out.
Holy shit.
Trust
and then
process,
like, it
man,
kind of was like, well, it's like when I read the Sirhan book, right? And he talked about, because every time a deal blew up before that, I would be freaking out. Like, anything that happened, I'd be like, oh, hey, what's up, Adam? I'd be like, oh no, there's something big. Like, everything was a tidal wave, right? And when I read the Sirhan book, so like Sirhan, he's like, when you're juggling a lot of balls and you drop one ball, you're bummed, but you still have a bunch of balls that you have to focus on juggling. And by pending those 14 units in 2 months, I had such a freedom from anxiety because I was so busy. I had so much to follow up on while still lead genning that, like, I didn't have time to sweat the small stuff. And I remember then it was like, Mike, I need an assistant. Dude, until you close 40 deals in your year, you don't get an assistant. And I'm like, I got to close 40 deals. And I only closed 28 that year. You know, a bunch blew up because I didn't have the skills to keep them in play. I didn't know how to solve problems. You know, and it's funny because then COVID hit and I'm like, I can't circle dial. What am I going to do? So it was just calling people I know and not asking them for referrals, but just seeing how they're doing, building those relationships, and then ask them, do they know anyone who's not happy? Do they know anyone who needs a contractor? Because me and you know contractors that aren't pieces of crap. Right? Like, we know the ones that are slime buckets, but we know the ones that are fair. They're not going to be the cheapest, but they're going to get it done right the first time, and they're going to be fair. That's what I pitch to people. And 9 out of 10 times, like, here we have basements, right? And everyone during COVID was like, oh, I need the basement finished. And everyone thinks you can finish a basement for like $10,000. You can't. You can't. Like, maybe if you have a really tiny basement, you do the work yourself. If not, it's generally $30,000 to $50,000. And when people hear that, they're like, whew. And then the conversation, as you know, it's like, well, what's your rate? And at the time, it was like, oh, we have a 5% rate or a 4.6% rate. And we're like, well, rates right now are 2.7%. And people are like, I can afford the house I want for the same amount of money I'm paying now. And then it was a shift, right? And then it was finding the houses.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing, man. Good for you. So hold on. Let me ask you. So
hit me.
So this guy got you going, right? Michael, right? He got you going. He got you at Tom Ferry. You started building your business. Are you now building a team? You have an assistant? Tell me about like the actual structure of your business.
Sure. So again, me and Mike, we were on the same team, and, you know, he owned his brokerage. I was there with him. I got an opportunity to join another person from our ecosystems team at Keller Williams, and it was really hard for me to make. I got the opportunity to build the vision of her team, and then inherit the team. I left field in a very tough decision earlier this year, and a week into my new position, I had realized I made a mistake, that I wanted to, you know, and it was tough because it wasn't this person's fault. It was mine. You know, I really didn't know what I wanted, and I didn't know, like looking back, I wish you never have hindsight, right? And I remember like, this is again where the ego was so clutch, because I called Phil Gertis, because I've always respected Phil. And I'm like, man, can I talk to you? I'm freaking out. Like, what do I do? Mm-hmm. And he goes, dude, you got to think about it this way. If you make a wrong exit off the highway, would you keep driving or would you get back on the highway? And I was like, damn.
That's a good analogy for sure.
And I was like, uh-oh. So then I had to, you know, break the news to my new partner that, you know, I wasn't going to stay. And I explored EXP and I ended up staying at Keller. And what kept me at Keller was, and this, I'm giving you this as contrast. So with Mike's brokerage, my previous mentor and still one of my good friends, he is the broker owner and the team leader. So when I started to recruit people and wanted to build the team, the question was either do I break the culture into two clubs, right? Where it's like the Schwartz team and the field team. I'm like, or do I become a number two and we all work together? So we did that. And, you know, I recruited 3 guys, Ben, you saw earlier, this kid Patrick, this kid Kyle. And I really just tried to will them into production. You know, Pat took off. He was a prospector from the Mike Ferry days who just didn't have the right support system. So he took off and he's killing it now. Ben got launched and is doing a great job. Kyle did a great launch. So we were really successful. But I didn't have a profitability model that really reflected a true team, right? It was like, oh, like, I just need to coach them. Like, satisfaction is all I need. But that's not sustainable, right? And the more you grow, the more you get pulled in multiple directions. And when I left,
less time.
When I went to Keller, I joined the new team. As I left, the owner of it called me and he asked me about that. He goes, so what does your team look like? And as I told him, he goes, that's a group. That's not a team. And he goes, generally groups are formed by already producing agents who need to share building out the infrastructure to allow them to continue producing versus a single breadwinning, you know, like the mega agent who brings on new agents. That's a formula for a disaster because you're being pulled in multiple directions. So when he said, hey, look, you can use the middle, like the Keller Williams model. And that's why most of the big teams I see in our ecosystem at one point or another, they were at Keller, right? And a lot of the big teams here, like most of the top ones are at Keller. So I was like, you know what, there has to be something to that. So I blew up my team. I hit the nuke button. You know, one of them went to Remax, one of them stayed at Field. You know, Ben's still at Field with Mike. You know, Kyle followed me into the fire. He's been with me, like he's now a solo agent. I'm a solo agent. We're job sharing. And like, as I build out the team the right way, I'm going to reincorporate him. But I had to go backwards to move forward. And that was one of the biggest I found with my newer position, that when I left Field to join this team was I was scared to take the jump, not appreciating how much I wanted to build it for myself. I kept telling myself, and I really believed this until I had this one aha moment when I pended 3 deals the first week, right? And I was like, wow, like I just gave up $7,000 of my money to someone else's team for services and staff that were good. And I'm not saying they weren't, but they weren't mine. I didn't deserve, they weren't doing it the way I wanted. And then I realized I was a control freak. And then I realized that I was a leader, that I wasn't a number 2, that I really wanted to be the person leading the pack. And I didn't realize that until I shifted it again. And it was a tough conversation, but I had to do it. And I'm grateful because it's given me the chance to, there's no mistakes, man. Everyone's gonna make mistakes, right? Like and that's one thing I've learned through this. Like hindsight's always 20/20, and it's incredible, like how scary and how like you're always you're gonna make bad decisions, and I think that's one of the best things. Scary. Yeah. One of the best things I've taken away from our ecosystem and from prospecting is the quicker you fail, the quicker you rise. Like I like that one. I get nervous when everything's going well. You know, like I enjoy it and I really try to be present. I do my gratitudes every morning and like I'm really present in today because I really know that when everything's going well, something bad's going to happen. It's just life.
Sooner or later.
But whenever bad is happening, it means something better is on the horizon. And it took me getting into sales and learning how to have doors slammed in my face and hung up on, and, you know, shooting the video with the bong in the background and, feeling insecure at these videos and just being a goofball, that I kind of found my way through it all. And I know that there's so much to learn, and it's crazy because I feel like I'm still a brand new agent, right?
That's awesome.
And I'm sure you
are.
too.
I mean, yes. I mean, I've been doing it for 16 years, and it sounds so weird to even say that. I'm just like, oh my gosh, the long damn time. I remember when I first started in real estate, and these agents are always told me, oh, I've been in the business for 10 years or 20 years. And they always say it in a way where it's like, I know more than you. And like, I promise myself not to ever do that with new agents, but it's just weird. 16 agents, but yeah, being part of this Tom Ferry thing and growing a team, it always feels new because there's always a big challenge ahead if you want to grow, and like for me, it's like, I want to add another 4 to 5 on my team by the end of the year. I have 3 currently.
Yeah.
I want to add another full-time person. So like, I want to grow this thing. Like I am pushing hard. I'm starting my YouTube channel. I hired a videographer. It's like I'm doing a lot of stuff right now, man. So it's awesome. But yeah, you're right. It's like it always feels new because you're always doing something new that is really challenging. And I think that's it's the anxious part, but it's also the exciting part of why we do this.
And there's always someone that's better than you in our ecosystem.
Always.
When I was just comparing myself to my office, I was like, oh shit, like I know where I have to be the top dog.
Yeah.
Then I go into our ecosystem and I'm like, oh my God, this person sold 2,000 homes? Like 2,000? Like, what? Like, what does that even mean? It's like, it's so humbling, and it's so nice to be around people that have that growth mindset.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's been amazing.
It's crazy, and there's no right way. There's a lot of wrong ways, right? But like, there's no right way for everyone, right? And it's so cool that we can be those individuals, and we work in a business where we get to be ourselves and help people.
That's amazing. We're lucky. Yeah, I always thank my mom. I think she's on here too. That she's the one who brought me into real estate. It's like I knew that I always wanted to kind of do my own thing. I just didn't know what that was. And the fact that I started really at a young age, right out of college, I was 23 or 22 years old, and being on a commission, no salary, always on commission. That's really helped me because it's hard for people. Like I have somebody on my team that joined like 6 months ago, and she's coming from a corporate job that she's had for 15 years or whatever. It's tough for her, because it's like you got to go from a good salary to just commission. That is not easy, but the sooner you do it, the better, because at some point you're going to be making a shit ton of money, and now you're not worried about salary. You're worried about what's your next vacation. How am I going to spend this money?
Crazy. My mom pushed me. I was in corporate America. I moved home. I was going to start a division of a medical device sales that I was doing in Florida here. And my mom's like, wow. Like a family friend's like shadow me. And my mom's like, you should do it. Like, you'd be so good. I'm like, but Mom, I had such a good salary. Like, I can't go to commission. Right. And it almost broke me, but it also made me so much more resilient and so much more present and so much more intentional. And it's made me take not only responsibility for my sales and my business, but for my life in ways that I didn't even expect. I don't even think I grew up until I started being successful in real estate.
Yeah.
It's that works, right? It's like, you never know,
man. So when am I going to see you next? Are you going to go to Blueprint?
I'm going to Blueprint, bro. I hope you're going to be there. You going to Blueprint?
Of course I'm going to be there. Absolutely.
Yes.
I'll see you there, bro. Yes.
Let's do it, dude. Let's do it. I think we should do a live round table. Let's get a bunch of us together. Let's all go live and let's just do it, or let's video it and then produce it for our people.
That's a good idea. Let's do that, because
and if you want to go live again, man, anytime, dude. Like, I am always happy to talk shop with someone like you who I respect and I admire, and like, you kick ass, dude. You're an inspiration to me, man. And
thanks, man.
Wow, just when you were like, will you go live with me? I'm like, dude, what? Like, yes, of course.
Let's do it. Like, I love it, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, I'll see you in the anyone who watches this, if you guys ever have questions, like DM me, like give me a call. Like, I'm that guy that will pick up. I might not know who the hell you are, but just be like, hey, I have a question for you. And I saw you, and I'm that guy. And Paul, I want you to know that if you ever need something, man, I'm always just a call away. And if you need me to coach or give any help with any of your people doing video or anything, like, ask me any questions.
That sounds awesome. I will definitely reach out to you about that for sure. For sure. Thanks, David. Really appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming on. I'll see you in a month.
Hell yeah,
Hello?
man.
Can you hear me?
Appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon.
Oh, there you are. Later, brother. See you, man.
Later, man.